Okay, so season 4 of Invincible just wrapped, and the season really felt like two different parts: the preparation for the war against the Viltrumites, and then the war itself. The first few episodes I was very engaged with. I like the fact that we were able to see Mark deal with the people of Earth hating him, and how he's trying to recover and gain their trust back again. We also got some much needed Viltrumite backstory and how their numbers were decimated due to a virus that wiped them all out. We got much more of Nolan and Alan compared to the previous season, which is always great. They go on these little mini adventures collecting objects that they believe that can help them in the upcoming Viltrumite war, as well as recruiting people that think that can assist them. Now, wanna know what's not a great duo? Titan and Machine Head. Once again, we get our Titan episode, and I feel like at this point in the story, we've outgrown the street level crime boss stories. I would much rather have that character building go to someone like Eve, who I feel like at this point still feels like just Mark's girlfriend. I think she could desperately use a friend of her own, other than someone like William, who's Mark's best friend. Because Eve has a lot of potential to be a super interesting character. I just feel like at this point, we still just don't know too much about her, other than that her family kind of just sucks. Now, there's one episode that got a ton of backlash. Episode 4, Herm. This episode was about Mark helping Bruce Campbell take Hell back over.
I'm looking big. I'm looking mean. Whoa, I'm looking hot.
Now, I thought it was a nice step back because Invincible episodes tend to be on the faster pace of things, and I thought it was a necessary step back to look into Mark's head a little bit more. I don't like this episode anymore. The second half of the season felt so fast that I felt like I was getting whiplash from it, and I think they could have used the episode for something else. I'll explain later. The start to the second half of the season was great. We saw Nolan come back to Earth, and I really like how he thought he could just get everyone's forgiveness if he just said, "I'm sorry," but no one accepts his apology. Because, like, the events of Chicago only technically happened, like, 2 years ago in the universe. We see the rematch between Mark and Conquest, which was surprisingly brutal compared to the first fight they had together, which was also pretty brutal.
That's a start.
Now, from here on, I feel like this is where pacing becomes a big issue. Nolan, Oliver, and Mark are stranded on this planet while they wait for Mark to recover from his injuries. So we see Nolan and Oliver become closer through a montage, while the entire Viltrumite war is happening through another montage. Now, how the war was being presented, it made the Viltrumites feel insanely weak. Now, the first 3 seasons, you were told just how strong the Viltrumites really were. Now, I know technically speaking, it's supposed to be like the perspective that the Viltrumites were really this strong. But still, they're really fucking strong. And yet, they're getting bitched over in this war. And I know they got the numbers thinning, and it's shown, but I really would have liked more Viltrumite success. And Oliver forgives Nolan so quickly, it just feels a little jarring and unnatural. Now, you can have Oliver take steps towards forgiveness, but you can't have him for like a full 2 episodes go, I hate you, to just instantly forgiving Nolan and embracing him with like a loving hug. It's not satisfying. While the entire war is going on, we get our first good look at Thrag, who just comes off as a massive bitch. Lee Pace as Thrag, I feel weird about, because it feels like he's holding something back in his performance. And no, it's not the voice. The voice doesn't really matter that much. Not to me. I think the performance is so much more important than what Thrag sounds like. Thrag can sound like Mike Tyson, and I think it could be fine if the performance was there. So we get these scenes where Thrag drops the cold and professional persona, and he kind of like lashes out in anger.
Viltrum is not a tomb.
And it feels off. It feels like he's like holding back. I feel like we didn't really get 100%. I feel like we could just get a little bit more. So we get this flashback to the Great Purge that separated the weak Viltrumites from the strong ones. And this, I think, should have been an entire episode and not just a quick little montage yet again. I feel like we could have followed a weaker Viltrumite family and showed them how they were trying to survive the Purge, while we get a B story following like Conquest and the Viltrumite story we already know, killing and maiming everyone. I feel like that really fleshed out some things. And then we could have gone into like a C story, a Thrag, and his perspective on the whole entire purge. I think that would have been a lot more useful than Mark going to hell for an episode. Because we got this whole big like 20-minute thing on the Scourge virus, and we didn't really get much on the purge. Both events really contributed to the Viltrumites being weak in numbers, and I think we should have seen both of them.
Okay. I can't really go over the finale without getting too far into spoilers, but I'll do my best. I'll give a warning before I go really into spoilers. So, the finale. It's different from the past three. Honestly, I enjoyed it. It is not as action-packed as the previous three have been. Each season has ended with this massive fight. This one doesn't. This one ends with a conversation. And that, honestly, I think it's stronger that way. All right. Spoiler warning. All right, ready? Here we go. So, Mark and a coalition, they blew up Viltrum. They blew up the planet, making all the Viltrumites retreat and fall backwards. But the only problem is they didn't know where they went. So the entire episode is Mark dealing with the PTSD of the entire war and him constantly seeing these visions of Thrag coming out of nowhere and destroying the entire planet. And it doesn't stop. It's done very well. I'll give them that. I thought it was tremendous how they were portraying the trauma and the PTSD. Now, with that being said, I didn't like all the aspects of the episode. I don't like what they're doing with Debbie. I think it's a mistake that she broke up with Paul. It doesn't feel like in character. It felt honestly a little bit out of nowhere. I know she used the excuse of our lives are a little too different, but honestly, all I've seen from Paul is that he's just a loving, supporting guy. It never seemed to bother him that Debbie was so involved with the superheroes and raising two boys who have superpowers. Honestly, he even seemed to enjoy it. And Paul and Oliver, honestly, they started having a pretty good relationship. Oliver really started seeing Paul as a father figure, as opposed to Nolan, who wasn't there for majority of Oliver's upbringing. Now, I know Nolan and Oliver have gone closer, but I don't think Paul should just be pushed out of the scene entirely. It's so obvious they're trying to set up Nolan and Debbie getting back together. I don't think they should. And some of you are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, no, it's Nolan's character arc to get back with Debbie," and I argue it's not. Nolan's entire character is becoming a good person. That doesn't mean he has to win back his wife. He can earn her respect back. Kind of similar like I was saying to Oliver earlier. He can earn the respect. He doesn't have to earn their love back. Because what he did in their eyes, and the majority of the people's eyes, is unforgivable. We like Nolan as a character because we spend a lot of time with him. We know how he thinks. We know how he behaves. But realistically, Nolan is not that great of a guy. But he's trying to be. And that's the whole point. He's trying to be better. Also, one final note, and it's something that's been talked about time after time after time again, but the animation just has to get better. It has to get better. And it's such a tired shtick of watching PNGs literally drag across the screen. And people are trying to cope with animation being shitty. And no, yeah, I like the show because the writing is good. But when you are an action-oriented show, you have to have decent animation. And the animators, they can animate. There are times when the show looks amazing. It looks stunning. And then there's times where it just doesn't. Now, I'm not saying every single frame has to be this 10 out of 10 image. No, it doesn't. It's still a TV show. I expect it to be a TV show, but it doesn't have to look like trash. And it does. It looks like trash. And I honestly think you can still get the Invincible yearly release out if you just change one thing. You hire more animators. We don't need the entire cast of Invincible to be these A-list celebrity actors. They don't have to be. You can just hire, there's tons and tons and tons of good voice actors out there. And their talents are being not used. You don't need
someone like Bryan Cranston to be casted next season, even though, oh yeah, that's cool. It's Walter White. But it doesn't have to be like that. I'd much rather get good animation, keep the story, and just get rid of the A-list actors. Obviously, you can't recast all the A-listers they already got, but each episode is $2.5 million. Where is that going to? It's not going to the animators, that's for sure. It's going to the actors. They don't need all the money. We don't need A-list actors for everything. Also, can Oliver just win one fight? Oh my god, please. All right, like and subscribe. Bye. Adios. Bye-bye. Overall, season's 7 out of 10.
I made a mistake.
Leave me alone, Freddie Mercury! You're supposed to be dead!